Hello everyone, fine. Today we are going to discuss quantum statistical mechanics. Earlier we discussed classical statistical mechanics. This is this is different from the classical statistical mechanics. We are going to use the quantum mechanical conditions in statistical mechanics. In this particular lecture, we are going to discuss quantum statistical mechanics. So let me share the first slide. Before coming to the quantum statistical mechanics, we have to share our basic ideas about the quantum mechanics. So let us share the basic ideas about our quantum mechanics. Now, these basic ideas are the how quantum states are defined. So first, we are going to see the basic of quantum mechanics. Microscopic system follows quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, an observable of a system is associated with a Hamiltonian operator, which operates on Hilbert space. So in quantum mechanics, we are going to consider the Hamiltonian operator, which is operating on the observable system, which operates in a Hilbert space. Now, in classical statistical mechanics, the Hamiltonian operator operates in a phase space. So here it operates in a Hilbert space. A state of a system in a vector ket psi in the same Hilbert space if ket q is an eigenvector of a position operator of all particles in the system, then we have a Bray and ket q psi is equal to psi function q is the wave function of the system in the state ket psi. So ket psi is associated with the position vector or eigenvectors ket q, and it forms a Bray and ket, and that is the wave function psi of q, and that shows the particular system. The wave function provides a complete description of a system. So a wave function psi of q, it describes the complete description of the particular state. At any instant of time of the wave function psi of a truly isolated system, truly isolated system may be expressed as the linear superposition of a complete orthonormal set of stationary wave functions. So we consider a linear superposition of a orthonormal set of stationary wave functions. So stationary wave functions which are not changing with time. So those stationary wave functions are uh, defined by a set of functions phi n. So we have a psi is equal to summation of n Cn phi n, where Cn is a complex one and which is a function of time. And the index n indicates a set of quantum numbers. So n describes the quantum numbers, and Cn is a complex in nature, and it is also a function of time. The square of modulus of Cn is the probability that the measurement perform on the system and to get the quantum number n. So that shows the probability by describing the Cn modulus square, and that shows the probability of getting the quantum number n after the performing the required measurements. So in statistical mechanics, the systems are interacting with external world. So in statistical mechanics, we are considering a system is interacting with the external world as we have described in classical statistical mechanics. Up till now, we have described that in the first paragraph that it is an isolated system which is not interacting with the external world. But here in a statistical mechanics, we are considering that the system is interacting with external world. Here, the system and the external world are truly isolated. The wave function psi will depend on both the coordinates of the system under the study and the coordinates of the external world. So it is interacting with the external world. So we consider that the function psi will depend on both the coordinates of the system under consideration as well as the coordinates of the external world. If set phi n denotes a complete set of orthonormal stationary wave functions of the system, but Cn is to be interpreted as a wave function of the external world. And it also depends on the coordinates of the external world and time. So in equation number 1, we have mentioned that Cn, that's a a constant, or and that depends upon the function of time as well as it is in a complex nature. So therefore, it can be interpreted that Cn can be interpreted as a wave function of the external world, and which also depends on the coordinates of the external world and time because it changes with the time. And that we have already mentioned, and that is described in a blue box in this particular slide. Now we come to the next slide. Now, observable of the system. Suppose operator O is operating, which corresponds to an observable of a system, because we have to observe the system. The average result of large number of measurements of this observable is given by expectation value. So we are taking large number of the readings of the observable of the system, and then we make it into a expectation value. So the expectation value, as we know that in quantum mechanics, the exact values are not available, but we get the expectation value. So expectation value obtained after the large number of observations, that is written in form of a equation number 2, where psi observable operator O psi divided by psi, and that is represented as summation n summation m Cn Cm phi n observable O phi m, and divided by um, the summation over n Cn Cn, and that is represented as equation number 2, where Cn and Cm is the scalar product of nth and mth wave function of the external world. So we are taking the scalar product of the Cn and Cm. And the denominator is independent of time because the Hamiltonian of the system plus external world is Hermitian. So the denominator is considered to be the independent of time. When one actually measures an observable in the laboratory, the time average value is measured. So whenever we try to measure the observable quantity in the laboratory, we measure the time average values. So the directly measurable quantity of equation number 2 is redefined as observable O is equal to psi O psi time average, which is represented by bar, divided by psi psi. And again, it is equal to summation over n, summation over m. Cn and Cm are again represented by time average, which is represented by bar, and the other quantity phi n O phi m again divided by summation n Cn Cn. So in this is represented by equation number 3. And in this equation number 3, Cn and Cm, it is the time average of Cn and Cm. And now we know that what is the time average. So the time average is defined in observable quantity as the time average taken over the time interval that is short coming compared to the resolving time of a measuring apparatus, but long compared to the molecular time. So that is the periods of molecular times. So periods of molecular times are very short. And in comparison to that, the resolving time of the apparatus is comparatively long. So in that case, the time average taken over time interval that is short compared to the resolving time of a measurement apparatus. So any measuring apparatus is having some resolving time, maybe in a millisecond, microsecond. That depends upon the machine or apparatus we have selected. And with comparison to that, the molecular times are very short. So the time average is something in between these two limits. So that is represented by equation number 3. For the definitions, considering a macroscopic system, which is not truly isolated, it interacts so weakly with the external world that is that its energy is approximately constant. So we consider that the system is large, which is not truly isolated, and it is weakly interacting with the external world. Let the number of particles in the system be n and the volume be v, and let the energy lie between E and E plus delta. And delta is very, very less than E. So this condition we have taken as we have taken in the classical statistical mechanics. So large number of particles n, large number of volume, and the energy is lying between E and E plus delta, and delta is comparatively very less. And that is shown in a diagram on the right hand side, and that shows the particularly the system with the number of particle n, volume v, and energy E is lying between E and E plus delta. Now let the H be the Hamiltonian of the system. And for the system, selecting a standard set of complete orthonormal wave functions, phi n, such that every phi n is a wave function of n particles contained in volume V and is eigenfunction of H with eigenvalue En. So we have a large number of particles n, and every particle is represented by a set of eigenfunction phi n. So all particles are represented by corresponding wave functions. And each the eigenfunctions of is H is represented by eigenvalue En. So the eigenvalues are again given by En, so energy eigenvalue. So we use for that the popular Schrodinger equation, and that is the H phi n E En phi n. So it is like H psi is equal to E psi. That's a popular equation. And that equation is H is the Hamiltonian operator operating on phi n. En is the energy eigenvalue. Phi n is the wave function as it is. Now, that equation number 4, what it describes, that describes the particularly the ensemble, and that is represented by this particular diagram, and description is given by the box above. Now we come to the postulates of quantum statistics. The postulates of quantum statistical mechanics are as follows. So number 1, postulate of equal a priori probability. So this is similar to the classical statistical mechanical postulate. So time average of Cn is equal to 1 when the system is lying between En and E plus delta. So whenever system under consideration is within this energy level, then probability is maximum or 100%. And Cn time average is equal to 0 otherwise. So when system is beyond this limit, there is no probability, it is 0. So that is similar to the classical statistical mechanical postulates, where the system under consideration, the probability is maximum, otherwise, which is not a member of the system, we consider it as 0. That we have already seen in our previous talks. Now, second is the postulate of random phases. Postulate of random phases. Cm time average is equal to 0. And here n is not equal to m. And that is represented by equation 6. So this is the postulate of random phases. So random phases are superimposed in a time average manner that gives 0. Now let us come to the next slide. As a consequence of these postulates, the wave function is regarded as psi equal to summation n bn phi n, that is represented by equation number 7, where modulus bn square is equal to 1 for the energy E less than En and E plus delta, and modulus bn square is equal to 0 otherwise, which is not a member of that particular region. So it should be within the energy region E and E plus delta. So for that, the 100% probability is there, where the phases of the complex numbers Bn are random numbers. In this manner, the effect of the external world is taken into account in an average way. So Bn is considering to be the effect of the external world, and the phases of the complex numbers Bn are random. So the influence of external world is taken in an average way. The observed value of an observable associated with operator O is given as follows by using Bn. So observable operator O, observable quantity, summation n modulus Bn square phi n O phi n, and divided by summation n b modulus Bn square. And that is represented by equation number 9 by box. And in equation number 9, it should be emphasized that equation 7 and equation 8 to be valid, the system must interact with external world so that the postulate of random phases is valid. So the postulate of random phases to be valid, that equation number 7 and equation number 8 to be interacted with the external world in a particular way. The postulate of random phases implies that the state of the system in equilibrium may be regarded as an incoherent superposition of eigenstates. So we have an incoherent and coherent superposition of eigenstates. And in quantum mechanics, we know that that can be explained very well. And those things are dealt with by Young's double slit experiment and other things. So the superposition of eigenstate, those are coherent as well as incoherent. So here we are considering the incoherent superposition of eigenstates. Now we come to the Gibbsian ensemble. It is possible to consider a system as one member of infinite collection of systems. We have taken the similar approach in classical statistical mechanics, each of which is an eigenstate whose wave function is phi n. Since these systems do not interfere with each other, it is possible to form a mental picture of each system one at a time. So again, we have discussed about the mental picture in classical statistical mechanics. This mental picture is the quantum mechanical generalization of Gibbsian ensemble. So this definition is similar to the definition which we discussed earlier in the classical statistical mechanics. The postulates of quantum statistics indicates the following things, following important things that indicates. The postulates of quantum statistical mechanics do not imply the law of thermodynamics, but also lead to definite formulae for all thermodynamic functions of a given substance. Second important thing is that they are more directly related to the molecular dynamics than are the laws of thermodynamics. Now we come to another important part is the use of ensemble approach in scattering theory. In our earlier lectures, we discussed the scattering theory in detail. Now, quantum mechanical ensemble approach can be used to scattering theory. The concept of an ensemble is quite common in quantum mechanics. Good example is an incident beam of particles in scattering theory. The incident beam of particles is composed of many particles, but in scattering theory, one particle at a time is considered. So, thus the scattering cross-section for a single incident particle is calculated, and then the cross-sections for all the particles are added for all particles to obtain the physical cross-section. So in normal scattering theory, we take a one by one approach. So taking a one particle, then another particle, and like one by one particle approach, we are using in a normal scattering theory. But in the quantum mechanical scattering theory, considering the statistical mechanical approach, we consider a beam of particle having millions of particles, and that is like an ensemble moving from one place to another place, hitting the target and getting scattered. So this is the fundamental of the ensemble approach. In normal scattering theory, we take a consideration of particle by particle approach. And here we take the ensemble of particles hitting the target and getting scattered. So the statistical, quantum statistical mechanical ensemble approach is used. So we come to another slide. A beam of incident electrons whose spin can be polarized is considered. So here we consider an electron beam. Suppose electron beam is hitting the target. So in a small beam, millions of electrons are there. So we can consider as an ensemble. If an electron has following wave function, then it corresponds to incident beam of polarized electrons. So we consider the electron beam. An electron can be polarized in two different directions. So we consider the following beam of particles and which we can polarize electrons in two different directions. So A, it is a column matrix 1, 0, B, column matrix 0, 1, and multiplied by e to the power I k dot r, and that is represented by equation number 3. So there are two different matrices we have considered in this equation, where A and B are definite complex numbers. The electron has a spin pertaining in some definite directions. So we have two different numbers, complex numbers. There are two different complex numbers represented by A and B. And there are two column metrics, 1, 0, and 0, 1. The cross section, in the cross section, the interference terms proportional to A star B plus B A star. For partially polarized electron beam, first the cross section with wave function proportional to first column matrix is calculated, and then for the second column matrix, and then added with appropriate weight factors. So first the cross section is calculated for the first column matrix, that is the 1, 0, then another column matrix 0, 1, again multiplied by appropriate weight factors, those are A and B, and then further calculations is done. So this is equivalent to describing the incident beam by an ensemble of electrons in which the state represented by two column matrices with certain relative probabilities. So this is the ensemble approach. Whenever an electron beam is hitting the target, it is considered as an ensemble of two types of electrons in two different directions polarized, and they are multiplied by the appropriate weight functions, and it is considered that the ensemble is hitting the target. So here we have considered the ensemble approach in scattering theory. Now we come to the next slide. Next slide is very interesting one, and that describes the how we are going to use the density matrix. Now, density matrix is a very important concept in quantum mechanics, and particularly the quantum mechanics where the quantum statistical mechanics is used. Now, using the density matrix concept, we are going to solve the three important parts. One is a microcanonical ensemble, canonical ensemble, and grand canonical ensemble. And we know that in classical statistical mechanics, we dealt with these microcanonical, canonical, and grand canonical ensembles with a large mathematical exercise. So we had a lot of derivations during the derivations of the formulations of microcanonical, canonical, and grand canonical ensembles in classical statistical mechanics. So we had a lot of mathematical exercise. But surprisingly, a magic is done by using the concept of density matrix that becomes so simple and so concise that we don't have to use heavy mathematics to solve microcanonical, canonical, and grand canonical ensemble in quantum statistics. So first we try to understand what is the density matrix. So first we try to understand the concept of transformation. So here the picture is shown in a classroom. So the students are studying in the classroom. So consider a classroom like an ensemble, and consider each student is having a wave function. So like a phi n, so n number of students. So phi n is a wave function associated with the large number of students. So each wave function describes the nature of a student. So height, weight, then gender, then complexion, and the academic excellence, academic performance, etc. So etc. is associated with a particular student, whether the student is bright or dull, whether the student is having a weight, or it's a bulky or a slim, or tall or a short, having a fair or a dark complexion. Everything is described by nature of a student, and that is the wave function phi n. Each student is having a position vector. So all students are having a position vector. And the random phase superposition, so that gives a complete picture of a classroom. So classroom is described by a eigen state, or by a eigen vector, and that gives the complete description of a classroom. So average description of a classroom, whether the classroom is composed of a brilliant students, or a dull students, or a notorious students, or a calm students, that is the average description. But that is due to the random phases, superposition of random phases. Now that is the description of a classroom. And now that description for the classroom is not convenient for a day-to-day marking presence in a classroom. So every time either we have to take a picture and they analyze the picture, and we have to find out that the students are present or not. So for that, a convenient thing is done. We have a register, and that register, we mark the presence of a student by a roll number. So roll number is assigned to a particular student, and that is the identity of a student. So in the register, we mark the presence of a student by a roll number. And that makes a something like a, this is the roll, there's a register, and this is the chart in which the presence is marked. So each student is identified by a roll number, and the presence is marked, and that is something like a rows and column. So it is something like a matrix. So the student's presence and student's description is converted by transformation into a register and into columns and rows in terms of a matrix. So this is the example that how matrix is formed. Now here, if you want to know that the particular student's progress, you know the roll number, you do the reverse transformation, and you get the complete description of the student from the office file. And if you want to know that for particular student, what is his roll number, so again you perform the transformation. The student is identified by a particular roll number. So assigning a number to a student, something like a roll number, for administrative convenience, it's a one type of a transformation. That transformation does not alter anything. Particular student is represented by a particular number only, but student is not changed. There is no change in the student. Only thing is that method is different. Instead of knowing student by full name, or by photograph, or by other details, we assign simply a number. So that is the transformation. So both way transformations are possible. So like that, this is a ease make in day-to-day administration in a school or colleges. That is used in density matrix. So we are going to use this particular ease, particular transformation, particular concept in our density matrix. So now we come to the next slide. What is the density matrix? It is possible to describe an ensemble in such a way that the random phases of states are not needed to be mentioned. So this is a one goal, and that goal is achieved by density matrix. Such goal is achieved by the density matrix. So in density matrix, the random phases of states are not needed to be mentioned. And that advantage is achieved by density matrix. An operator is defined when all its elements with respect to a complete set of states are defined. Its matrix element with respect to any other complete set of states can be found by well-known rules of transformation theory in quantum mechanics. Now, again, we remind that the roll numbers are assigned to a person or a student. So that is something like a transformation. So such type of transformation theories are used in quantum mechanics. So the density matrix rho mn corresponding to a given ensemble is defined as rho mn equivalent to phi n rho phi m equivalent to delta mn modulus bn square. And that is equation number 10 that defines the density matrix. In this particular representation, rho mn is a diagonal matrix. In this equation, rho mn are matrix element of density operator rho. Here, operator rho operates on state vectors in Hilbert space. So all these operations are performed in Hilbert space. And operator rho is used over here, and that is a matrix in form of a matrix, and rho mn are represented by columns and rows. That is, in equation number 9, the observable O is represented. So observable O is represented as summation n phi n rho phi n divided by summation phi n rho phi n. And that is represented as a trace of observable operator O and rho by trace of rho, and where the trace A denotes the trace of operator A, and it is a summation or sum of all diagonal matrix element of A in any representation. So in a matrix, we have a diagonal components. So if we take a summation or sum of all diagonal components, then it is represented as trace of A. So A is a matrix. In that matrix, the diagonal components are added, then it is known as a trace of matrix A. So trace of matrix AB is equal to trace of matrix BA. And similarly, trace of matrix S A S inverse is represented as trace of matrix S inverse AS, and that is equal to trace of A. So these are the some standard rules associated with the matrix and trace of a matrix A. So these mathematical standard rules we may use in our subsequent discussions. Now, that is why these notations regarding matrix and standard rules regarding the trace of matrix are briefly introduced over here. So it is important to note that the density matrix introduces a notation, not a new physical content. So we have to be very specific that here density matrix introduces new notation, but not new physical content. Again, we go back to our classroom example. For a particular student, roll number is assigned, not a new student is introduced. So just a new way of representation. The density operator rho defined by equation number 10 contains all information about the ensemble. So density operator described by equation number 10, just go back to previous equation number 10, it describes the complete knowledge of the ensemble. And like that, the register of a student. So the register of a student describes the complete knowledge of the classroom. It is dependent on time if it commutes with Hamiltonian of the system and if the Hamiltonian is independent of time. So it is independent of time if it commutes with Hamiltonian of the system and if the Hamiltonian is independent of time. So IH cut del rho by del T is equal to H rho commutator, and that is represented by equation number 12, which is the quantum mechanical form of a Liouville theorem and also known as a Newman equation. The density operator is shown as follows: rho summation n ket phi n modulus bn square bre phi n. That is equation number 13, where ket phi n is the state vector whose wave function is phi n. And similarly, it can be represented as rho mn equivalent to phi m rho phi n equivalent to bre phi m rho ket phi n. And that is equivalent to summation over k bre phi m ket phi k bk modulus square bre phi k ket phi n, and that is equivalent to delta mn modulus bn square. So here we have used the Dirac's notations, which we have already discussed in our earlier lectures. So that is represented by equation number 14. The time averaging process through which one can average out the effect of external world on the system under consideration may be reformulated in form of a density matrix. So time averaging we are considering. So this can be represented by using equation number 2. In the general form, for the expectation value of any operator O with respect to psi can be represented as psi observable O psi divided by psi psi equal to summation n summation m r n m o m n divided by summation n r n n, and that is represented as trace ro and trace r. That is represented by equation number 15, where r and m is cm cn, and that is equivalent to phi n r phi m. This shows the definition of r, and observable quantity O and M, again in form of a matrix, represented as phi n r phi m. Here, r may depend on time, but trace r is independent of time. So trace of r is taken is independent of time. The density operator is the time average of r. So rho equivalent to time average of r. So that is represented by equation number 16. Now we come to the microcanonical ensemble. Now, microcanonical ensemble in quantum statistical mechanics, as well as canonical ensemble in quantum statistical mechanics, as well as the grand canonical ensembles, will briefly discuss by using the magic of density operator. So the density matrix for the microcanonical ensemble in the representation in which the Hamiltonian is diagonal. So we are using Hamiltonian in form of a matrix is having a diagonal form. Using equation number 14, rho mn equal to delta mn modulus bn square, where bn modulus square is constant for the condition that E less than En and E plus delta. And modulus bn square is equal to 0 otherwise, because modulus bn square is having 0 value, which is not following this condition. So here, the set of En are the eigenvalues of Hamiltonian. So Hamiltonian is composed of the matrix form. The density operator is rho. It is summation within the limit E less than En less than E plus delta, and it is Bray and ket phi n, and that is represented by equation number 18. So the trace of rho is equal to the number of states whose energy lies between E and E plus delta. So trace of rho indicates the number of energy states which is having an energy value between E and E plus delta. So trace of rho is equal to summation A1 taken over n rho n n, and that is the gamma E. So here gamma is the volume occupied by the system in gamma space. So that is represented by equation number 19. For the macroscopic system, the spectrum En almost forms the continuous value or continuum. And for delta, which is very, very less than E, we can write gamma E is equal to omega E delta. That is equation 20. And we know very well that omega E is the density of the states at energy E. And we know that the entropy is defined as function EV, and that can be K log gamma E, and that is equation number 21. So we can use the gamma E value over here. So this description is the same as in the classical statistical mechanics, except that gamma E must be calculated in quantum mechanics or in a quantum mechanical way. No Gibbs paradox arises from equation number 21 because the correct accounting of states is automatically implied by definition of gamma E in equation number 19. So in equation number 19, the correct counting of states is again automatically taken into account. And that is why the no Gibbs paradox is arised. And we have already seen in our talk about the classical statistical mechanics in Gibbs paradox, the solution of Gibbs paradox is given in a quantum mechanical way. So the only new result from equation number 21 is obtainable is the third law of thermodynamics, which is not possible in classical mechanics. So once gamma is known from equation number 19, then we can calculate the entropy very easily by using the standard formulation by using equation number 21. And by using 21, we can derive other thermodynamic properties in quantum mechanics. Now we come to the canonical ensemble. The canonical ensemble in quantum statistics, the derivation is valid in quantum statistical mechanics with a little change that the integration over gamma space is replaced by sum over all states of the system. So we do a small change that instead of integration, we use the summation. So it is 1 upon n factorial h raised to 3n integration dp dq, now replaced by summation over m, and that is represented by equation 22. Thus, the canonical ensemble is defined by this density matrix. So rho mn equal to delta mn e to the power minus beta en. And here beta is equal to 1 upon kt. And that is represented by equation 23. And that is shown by a blue box. The results that at the temperature T, the relative probability for the system to have the energy eigenvalue En is exponential beta En. So the result states that at particular temperature T, the relative probability of obtaining energy eigenvalue En is exponential minus beta En. So that is the probability of obtaining the energy eigenvalue En at particular temperature T, and which is called the Boltzmann factor. The partition function is given by QnVT is equal to trace rho, again equal to summation over n e to the power minus beta En. So that is equation number 24. The summation is taken over the states and not on the energy eigenvalues. So each state is summed over, not the energy eigenvalues. The connection with the thermodynamics is the same as in the classical statistical mechanics. So the density operator rho is rho equal to summation over n cat phi n e to the power minus beta En bre phi n. And that is represented as e to the power minus beta h summation over n cat phi n bre phi n, and that is equation number 25. And we have already mentioned that cat phi n bre phi n forms the identity operator. So where h is the Hamiltonian operator. So h is Hamiltonian operator, and cat phi n bre phi n forms the identity operator that is represented by yellow box equation number 25. Therefore, rho equal to e to the power minus beta h equation 26. The partition function is QnVT equal to trace e to the power minus beta h, and that is represented by equation 27. So where the trace is taken over all the states of the system that has n particles in volume V, the ensemble average of O in the canonical ensemble is represented as observable quantity O, trace of O e to the power minus beta h, trace of power beta h, and divided by Qn, and that is equation number 28. So the observable quantity O can be represented by this. Now we come to the topic, the grand canonical ensemble. For the grand canonical ensemble, the density operator rho operates on Hilbert space with an indefinite number of particles. So we have a large number of particles, and operator rho operates in the Hilbert space because it is a quantum grand canonical ensemble. We do not display it. The grand partition function is the QNZVT. This is similar to the grand partition function in classical statistical mechanics. It is taken as summation n to infinity, Zn fugacity, Qn Vt. That is equation number 29, where Qn is the partition function for n particles. The relations between log Qn and the thermodynamics are the same. The ensemble average is represented as observable O 1 upon Q summation n 0 to infinity Z raised to n observable ON, and that is equation number 30. And here the observable ON represents the ensemble average. Now Qn ZVT equal to trace e to the power minus beta h minus mu n, and that is represented in terms of the density operator. And again, the observable O is equal to 1 upon Q, trace of observable O e to the power minus beta h minus mu n. And that is represented by equation number 31. So here we have used in a form of a trace the density matrix concept. And the mathematical derivations have become very simple, amazingly simple with comparison to the classical statistical mechanics. Again, mu is the chemical potential. So same concept is used over here. So where n is an operator representing a conserved quantity, and the trace is taken over all the states without restriction to an eigenvalue of n. So this makes the mathematical derivations very simple. Now we come to the importance of the density matrix concept. A density matrix is a matrix that describes the quantum states of a physical system. It allows for the calculation of the probabilities of the outcomes of any measurement performed upon this system using Born rule. So it comes with the outcome for the measurements performed on the system. It is a generalization of a more usual state vectors of wave functions, while those can only be represented pure states. Density matrices can also be represented for mixed states. So mixed states can be represented by density matrix. Mixed states arise in quantum mechanics in two different situations. First, when the preparation of the system is not fully known, and thus one can deal with the statistical ensemble of a possible preparations. And second, when one wants to describe a physical system which is entangled with another one or mixed up with the another one, as its state cannot be described by a pure state. So in these two situations, the mixed states are arised, and we use the density matrix. This is a very important quantum information and quantum communication. So density matrix concept is very important in quantum information and quantum communication technology. Density matrix is used in quantum chemical calculations, magnetism theory, and also it is useful in quantum and non-linear optics. So in quantum optics and non-linear optics, density matrix concept is very important. And NMR theory is also using the density matrix concept. So density matrix concept is very important concept in quantum mechanics, and it is used in quantum statistics. Now we come to the one slide for the contributors. So John von Neumann, born in 1903, passed away in 1957, Hungarian-American mathematician, physicist, and a computer scientist. So he had a contribution in many fields. He contributed the density matrix theory. Another scientist, Leo Landau, born in 1908, passed away in 1968, Soviet physicist and contributed in density matrix theory. And the last one is Felix Bloch, born in 1905, passed away in 1983, Swiss-American physicist and Nobel Prize winner. He again contributed in density matrix theory and also contributed in developing the first NMR. So these three great scientists, they contributed in quantum mechanics and particularly in density matrix theory. Now coming to the last slide. On the left-hand side, the famous scientist statue is there. The name of scientist is Nikola Tesla, and his contribution is in magnetism. And he first developed the hydropower station in USA at Niagara Falls. In Niagara Falls, he first established the hydro power generation system using the magnetic based turbine. So his statue is situated near Niagara Falls, and I was fortunate enough to give a pose over there. And on the right hand side, the Great Wall of China, again a wonder of world, one of the wonders of the world, and a huge structure, and a huge structure made by people. And again, the bottom picture, maglev train in Shanghai. So magnetic levitation train. Again, the theory laid down by Nikola Tesla long back, again used by scientists to develop a maglev train moving very fast in a levitation, magnetic levitation principle. So all the three things are coupled, and fortunate enough to ride maglev train in Shanghai. So thank you very much. This is the leisure hour at my home in garden. Again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for patient hearing. Now I stop sharing the slides. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Have a nice time.